Alright, so we back with another video. Today we're going to be ranking every single NFL team again, because last week we had a couple things that happened. But not even going to talk too much on that. Today we're going to be ranking the NFL teams 1 to 32. Now, a lot of videos I got to redo. I got to redo the head coach tier list. I got to redo the QB tier list. Just a lot of stuff that's happened. So, y'all do want these videos, make sure to like the video. Make sure to subscribe. Week 9 tier list going into week 10. We're going to be going through these game by game. Y'all do want more? Like the video. Subscribe. All that good stuff. Let's hop into it. Alright, hopping into it. We're going to rank only the games that's happened so far. So, first game, we have the Dolphins and the Ravens. This was the Thursday night game. I was supposed to do this video a couple ago, but the things that happened, they happened. So here we go. When it comes to this game, honestly, first half, it was a little bit more competitive. It really wasn't the score doesn't really tell you the whole story of how this game actually went. It was a lot more competitive in the first half. Second half, it got away. Lamar Jackson was kind of rusty to start. Then Lamar Jackson started being Lamar Jackson, and the game was the rest of the history and all that type of stuff. Tua didn't have his best game. Ravens defense starting to get it going these past couple weeks. So that's a very interesting thing you can talk about. Dolphins, I'm gonna have to say, on the back end, it's a competitive team in games, but they just don't get a lot of the jobs done. Like last week, they played against the Falcons, they blew them out, but that was with no Penix, no Drake London, and you can see Drake London, he was fantastic this week. So we're gonna get into that game when we get there. I'm gonna say the Ravens, I had them middle of the pack in last week's video that y'all probably won't see, but for this week, because Lamar back, they were middle of the pack because there was no Lamar and all this stuff. They're going to be around that higher end, because if Lamar is playing, that is a completely different team. If they actually playing defense, that is a completely different team as well. So, let's keep it going. Next, we got the Titans. Don't think it needs too much explanation there. Bad team. Bad football team. They actually had a pretty good week this week. They had a couple real touchdowns to start the game. They had a pick six first throw of the game, and they had like a kick return or a punt return. But all in all, this team is not a team that can score points. They even had 14 free points, and they still couldn't get the job done this week. Literally got spotted 14 points, and they still couldn't get the job done. Gonna keep it moving. Chargers, on the other hand, they had a very bad start to this game. This almost was like a game that they almost tried to throw away, and they still ended up winning this game. It's not that impressive that they did beat the Titans, because everybody pretty much beats the Titans except for the Cardinals, which is a whole different discussion. But yeah, the Chargers, I'm gonna give them their props for this one. I think they're 11-20, right behind a team like the Ravens if they're getting healthy at the right time. Where I think Joe Alt actually got hurt in this game, which is a pretty big injury for that Chargers team, if you've been watching that team. Bengals, now this was a crazy game, because it really was a game all game until late third, and it became like a 14-point game. Caleb didn't have that great of a game, but he did end up having a ridiculous game. He ended up having a ridiculous game. It really was inconsistent, which Caleb, that's just kind of what it is with Caleb at this point. When he comes to playing on time, it's just not great. But when it comes to him making plays, he's just a playmaker quarterback. And he did that this week when it mattered most. Now, at the end of the game, he kind of trolled, but he did make up for it at the very, very end with the run. Then the throw to Colston Loveland to give him a chance, and then Colston Loveland does the rest. Terrible tackling by the Bengals, but if you really think about it, if they do tackle him there, maybe they missed the field goal, but then the Bengals have no chance. Bengals at least got a chance to do 3 plays. They just, the play that they did second should have been the first play they did. And then the Bears called a really good play at the end of that game, so you got to give them their credit. But Bengals, they've been pretty competitive. This is another game where they've been pretty competitive in a game where they're not really that healthy. Defensively, though, that was awful. Awful performance. They were kind of clutch, but at the same time, them last 2 plays that they had defensively was just, that's the epitome of the Bengals. I think the Dolphins have been better so far this year. I would go with the Dolphins over them, but they're around the same area. So yeah, I'm gonna go Bengals right behind the Dolphins. Then we have the Bears. Bears, in my opinion, is a very interesting team, because this team goes as far as Caleb is going to be. And beyond that, the defense has been kind of inconsistent, and the offense overall has been inconsistent. But if their running game is looking like it did in this game, this is going to be a tough team. It's just what it is. This is going to be a very, very tough team. And I've said this in previous videos that this is one of the best coached play calling, play design teams in the league on both sides. They showed that again today when it mattered most. And I honestly thought that timeout Ben Johnson did was interesting. I didn't know if it was going to be good or bad. It ended up being a very, very good decision. And it ended up working out for them to save that time instead of letting that clock just run off. So I'm going to actually go with the Bears in that 11 to 20 range, but they probably going to be on the back end of that 11 to 20 range, to be real. Next, when it comes to the Giants, this is not a good team. For whatever reason, they've been a little bit more competitive in a couple of these games. Defensively, they should be better than what they are. Offensively, they should be worse than what they are. It's very, very odd. I do think that the coach uplifts the offense, but they don't really have really good coaching defensively. And I think that's kind of probably what it is. Dart has been doing his thing. Offensive line has actually been a lot better than I really expected. But overall, the Giants have not been that crazy. I would say the Giants is in that 21 to 29 range. Next, we have the 49ers. 49ers is one of those teams I was saying is middle of the pack, like the Ravens if they get healthy. They're still not the craziest in terms of health, but they are still getting the job done. I would say they're in that middle pack of 11 to 20. I think on both sides of the ball, this is another one of those teams that's very well coached. And I'm going to be honest, Mac Jones as the backup quarterback has not been bad. He's not been bad. Next, we have the Colts. Now, this is a team that I've been saying could be arguably the most complete team in football. This week showed the blueprint of how you beat this team. You stop the run. You focused on taking away JT. This is nowhere near the same level of team. It's just what it is. It is literally that simple. If JT is not balling, this is not the same caliber team. Because at the end of the day, Daniel Jones, no matter how good he's playing, he's still Daniel Jones. If you stop the run against this team, it's kind of simple. Bro, they're literally the Lions of the AFC. You saw a similar thing with the Lions today against the Vikings. You stop the run, it's gonna be a completely different situation. And Jared Goff is just a better quarterback than Daniel Jones. So I still think that the Colts are a top 10 team because the thing is, the Steelers, they just win games like this when they play mistake-free football, and they played mistake-free football. And this wasn't really a close game. It came down to the end being a close game. It was not close at all, whatsoever. So I do still think they're one of the best offense, if not the best offense in the league this year. And you got to give the Steelers their credit for what they did for the majority of this game. But for the most part, I do think that this is a wake-up call for them, personally. Next, we got the Steelers. When it comes to the Steelers, this was a big win for them. I'm still not a big believer of the Steelers. I would say, honestly, I don't think the Steelers are better than the Bears, personally. I think that this Steelers team is a team that if you make mistakes against them, they can beat you. If you don't make mistakes against them, they won't. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. I don't think their defense is really that good. I don't think their offense is really that good. But today, I don't know if I can really say that. Defensively, they got the job done on JT and on Daniel Jones. It was a double whammy. They executed the game plan. I think the Steelers are kind of the opposite of what the Bears are right now. I think the Bears have really good play calling on both sides. Execution is very questionable. If the Bears aren't playing a terrible defense, that is not that great of an offense. And then defensively, it's been very inconsistent all year. I'm going to actually say the Steelers are above the Bears because the execution at the end of the day is just better right now. I think they're more likely to win some of these games that the Bears were more likely to lose, especially in some of these situations. But they're very comparable. Very comparable. I think the Bears are probably more talented, but they just don't execute at the same level of the Steelers, in my opinion. Then we have the Lions. I still think the Lions are a 2-5. It's the NFL. You're going to lose games, but this was a very, very... Where's the team that the Lions played? The Vikings supposed to be right here. Yeah, I do think... What in the world? What happened to my order? Okay. Yeah, I do think the Lions had a very interesting game today. Kind of similar to the Colts. It's kind of the same thing I'm saying about in the playoffs. Jared Goff is not going to be a player that can carry your team to wins in the playoffs. It's just what it is. Like, if the defense isn't playing to the level that they should be, the run game isn't playing to the level that they should be, Jared Goff is not going to carry you. And I don't think Jared Goff played bad in this game. I think he played good, but he's just not that caliber of player, in my opinion. And I think this was a pretty obvious statement of that today. Honestly, think he got outplayed by a quarterback I had been talking crazy about, which actually confuses me even more about him because I said this the first week. J.J. McCarthy, that first week, if you watch that game, he was terrible for the first 3 quarters. The fourth quarter, he was a completely different player. The next game, he was literally that same guy from the first 3 quarters of that Bears game, but if not even worse, because now he was also 3 and outs and turning the ball even more. This game, he looked like a Kevin O'Connell quarterback. This was getting back to the play calling that Kevin O'Connell and Brian Flores is known for. Before this week, the play calling on both sides was extremely questionable. Extremely questionable to me. But this was a game that showcased the Vikings being the caliber team that they really can be. I would honestly say the Vikings have been just as inconsistent as the Bears. I have more question marks with their quarterback than I do with the Bears. I'm going to have to say 21-29. But they could be a lot higher than I have them. The Panthers. The Panthers are a team that can beat any team. They are a team that can lose to literally any team. I said this last week. I'm saying it again. I literally don't know what to even expect out of the Panthers week in and week out, no matter who they play. They could play one of the worst teams in the league and lose. They could play one of the better teams in the league and beat them, destroy them. I don't know, man. This Panthers team is very crazy. And Packers fans in my quarterback video was talking crazy. But at the end of the day, bro, this is what I'm kind of scared of when it comes to J Love. He had a very, 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 very interesting game today. This Panthers defense is very, very inconsistent. This offense for the Panthers is very inconsistent. And the Panthers offense didn't really get the job done. But this is similar to what the Panthers were doing last year. Last year, if you watched them, when Bryce Young came back from injury, they were playing some of the top teams in the league and competitive with them all the way to the last play of the game. Even going into overtime with some of the big, I think both of the Super Bowl teams, even the Buccaneers last year. So you got to give them the credit for what they did. And they're starting to win those games instead of losing them. So you got to give the Panthers their credit. Honestly, I don't know if I can put the Panthers above the Bears. I will put the Panthers right there. Right there. That is a very hard team to rank. Next, we got the Packers. I still think the Packers is one of the 10 best teams in the league. I just don't know how far I can go on that. I do think defensively that is a very, very, very sound, very, very good defense. But the defensive backs are the issue. What are the defensive backs going to look like that week? And you can really take advantage of that. The Browns take advantage of that. And now the Panthers. You could also say a similar thing to the Panthers, as I said for the Packers at this point. They lost to the Browns, they lost to the Panthers, and they tied with the Cowboys, a team that has no defense. So it's a very interesting situation at that point. I would say I probably have to say I trust the Packers more than I trust the Colts because of the quarterback situation. But there's not been a lot to show of me reasoning that. I'm really thinking about the coaching. It's pretty much the same level. And the play calling is pretty much the same level on both sides. I would just say the quarterback is the difference there for me. And I would probably say I would trust Dre Love more than I trust Daniel Jones in the playoff scenario, personally. Next, we got the Texans versus the Broncos. This was another very interesting game. This game definitely goes differently, by the way, if Stroud is playing. So that's going to actually make me put the Texans a little bit higher than they probably should be. I'm going to go Texans. I'm going to go above the Chargers. I think the Texans offense is getting better at the right time. I think they actually didn't play that bad this week offensively. I think if Stroud plays this game, it looks a lot different. It looked a lot different when he was playing. They were winning pretty comfortably. Well, comfortably in this game, if you was up 3, that was a comfortable lead because this was not going to be a touchdown game at all. It wasn't. I don't think a touchdown was scored in this game, honestly. But the scoring drive is really what mattered in this game because this was a defensive showcase. This was 2 of the best defenses in the league, which I think the Texans are the best defense in the league, and the Broncos. And when it comes to these Saints fans or Broncos fans that try to put Bo Nix in these conversations every week, I'm sorry to tell you, this was a showcase of that game. He was not good in this game. He struggled in this game. So that's just what it was. But they got the job done. Kind of got bailed with the Stroud injury. They got the job done. I would say they're top 10. Top 10, for sure, a top 10 team. I think offensively, they're very inconsistent, but their defense is low-key kind of inconsistent, but it is a top 5 caliber defense in the league. Next, we got this last game as a Patriots fan. This one we got to talk about. Falcons versus the Patriots. Now, I'm going to be real. Penix was very bad in this game. He was very bad. He was all over the place with this. Bijan was Bijan. Drake London had arguably his best game of the season. Now, what really was impressive about Drake London in this game, early on in this game, the Patriots running zone, and he had 2 for 2 when he was playing off coverage with Gonzo. After that, man-to-man, Gonzo was locking him all the way into the last snap that Gonzo played, where it was man-to-man. I don't know if that was cover 3 or man-to-man. That might have actually been cover 3. To be real, I don't know, but it was like it was either a fourth down or a third down. He had a long play down the sideline. It's a 50-50 jump ball. Drake London, I mean, that's probably one of the things that Drake London gonna be able to take advantage of. Gonzo is probably the size advantage, but I think Gonzo played it pretty well. I think the real reason why the play ended up happening the way it did was Gonzo pretty much got injured, but I do think he catches that regardless of the injury. But I do think the injury had a little bit to do with that, because if you've seen that game, he was making plays on the ball multiple times, and man, that was fantastic. And then after Gonzo got out the game, now also before that play, there was 2 plays where they was man, and got to give credit to the Falcons play caller to be putting him in motion to get him one-on-one with Marcus Jones, who was like 5'8", on the 1 yard line, and he got 2 touchdowns off of that. And then later on in the game, he gets another crazy touchdown. So you gotta give the Falcons credit. People have been talking crazy about how much they utilize Bijan and Kyle Pitts in previous years. This year, they've utilized all 3 of those star players at a really high level, and they've done a good job with that. The issue is Penix. In my opinion, he had a very, very bad game. I don't think the box score would showcase that. There was a lot of plays in this game where the Patriots dropped picks. There was a lot of plays in this game where the Patriots literally just read the scouting report and just sent a blitz, and Penix just freaked out. He had a couple plays where he just freaked out. The intentional grounding that he had, where I don't know if that was even a blitz. He just had instant pressure, freaked out, just threw the ball down. No one there. Intentional grounding, just trolls that drive. That pretty much was the difference in the entire game. For the Falcons. When I'm going to speak on the Patriots side of it completely differently. And that's going to be very interesting convos. But Drake London was fantastic. Bijan, for what this defense has done in the run game, fantastic. I do think, honestly though, I think that this was the best defensive performance I've seen from the Patriots all year. You got to think about it. Last year, these are games that the Patriots lose with Gerard Mayo. You got to give Vrabel a lot of credit. A lot of the situational awareness and stuff, play calling, was very good defensively today. Offensively, we're going to talk about it. But, yeah, I'm going to say the Falcons, I think they actually played a really good football game in the second half, especially defensively. I do think they played a lot better. And once Gonzo got out, they were a lot better offensively. They just couldn't finish the job, which is kind of unfortunate if you were a Falcons fan, which they should have, because that pass defense is not the same pass defense if Gonzo is not out there. And you saw the difference as soon as he got injured. It's just not the same. But I'm going to say for the Falcons, honestly, I'm going to give them their respect, because that was a very good performance in that second half. And that play that they made at the end of the first half was huge. That was the difference. I do think Drake got to be a little bit more aware. We're going to talk about it. Let's talk about it, though. Now, first half, Patriots played a perfect game all the way into the final minute. Now, didn't talk about this also for the Falcons. The Falcons actually had probably the worst situational clock management I ever seen from a team. The team couldn't stop the Patriots the whole first half. He literally got bailed out by Drake Maye not protecting the football on that fumble. It was a great play call. They had like a first down that they reviewed for like 3 minutes. That gave the offense time to be able to go out there and make a play, call a play, get comfortable. But that also got the defense to be able to, because we was hurrying it up. We was going to hurry that up. That was going to be a no huddle because we had no timeouts. It was 30 seconds. So that's a completely different situation for both sides. I do think that, honestly, looking back at what the play call they did, actually probably did help the defense. Especially when you think about what actually happened. Because what happens is, they start that drive, it was like a minute something left, and the Patriots are just comfortable just running the clock out to go to the second half. The coach, Raheem Morris, he calls 2 timeouts. That, then third down, they get a first down. Now they're finna go down the field and try to score. They were pretty much almost really in scoring position. If you was watching that first half, the Falcons couldn't really do much to stop that Patriots offense. Everything changed from that sack fumble. Pierce, honestly, if he gets in the end zone there, that is huge, but it doesn't really matter regardless because Drake London ends up getting in the end zone. So that was big as well. So when it comes to the Patriots, offensively first half, defensively first half, I think they played a perfect half until that fumble from Drake Maye. I think Drake Maye pretty much gifted them 7 points. Then we come out the second half, we get the ball. That's another reason why calling those timeouts was very dumb, because we had no timeouts and he's giving us time to really go down the field and score more points. That literally made no sense, in my opinion. If you were looking at us really just ready to go to the second half and run the clock, Okay. But it ends up working out in their favor because Drake Maye ends up making that mistake, fumbling the ball. So, yeah. But with all the content I said, I don't really understand the reason to believe that. Now, Drake Maye in the second half, that first drive, he has a fumble on the very first play where he doesn't even have nobody affect him. He just drops the ball. Another one where he just got to protect the ball. That's mistake. Well, at the point of that, it was like 3 mistakes. That's like his 3rd mistake in the whole game. Then he goes on, they go on, have like a methodical drive. They're running the ball. Shout out to Terrell Jennings. He was very good in this game. Hendo was okay in this game. Again, I don't think he's as good as people act like, but he was okay. This probably, I think he may have been better last week, but he did have a fumble. This is probably his best game as a pro this week, outside of preseason, but it's preseason. Let's be for real. They go on to have a long drive that drive. They end up only be able to get a field goal. That was a huge stop for the Falcons. Because in the whole first half, they had 21 points. Second half, the Patriots go on to score only 3 points. Now, the turnover after that, I think that's the next drive, because the Falcons actually get stopped again and they end up punting. They're moving the ball again, and Drake Maye throws a pick. Now, this pick, I really don't know if this one is on Drake or if it's on Hunter Henry. The ball is a little high, but Hunter Henry doesn't even know the ball is coming. So, don't really know, but at the same time, if you Drake Maye, you cannot have those mistakes happen because you're going against Jesse Bates. That is what he does. You make a mistake, he's going to take advantage. So, that's like the 4th mistake of the game Drake Maye made in this game. And I think the Falcons go down the field to get a field goal. Yeah, they get a field goal there. Yeah, they get a field goal there to make it a 7-point game. Next drive, the Patriots, I believe they go down the field. I'm gonna be real. I don't know what exactly happened the next drive for the Patriots. I know they don't score. They don't turn the ball over. I know they don't score. I'm pretty sure they just punt. Now, shout out to the Patriots punter. He was stupid in this game. The Falcons go down the field. I think they get another stop. The Patriots get the ball back again. The Falcons get a stop. Then the Falcons get another chance. Now they go down the field. They get a couple stops. And by the way, they was terrible on 3rd down all game. But that was a lot due to Penix, because all the Patriots was really doing was blitzing them. And he was making mistakes on that. But then they have like a 3rd or 4th where they finally get a conversion where Drake London completely mosses Gonzo, like I said. And he ends up getting hurt on that play. That is the biggest play of the game for really the Patriots. I don't think that fumble from Drake Maye is the biggest play, because if Gonzo's still healthy, I still have confidence in the defense to keep getting stops. But after that play happened, I had no faith the Patriots was finna keep getting stops. So then I'm like, Drake Maye gotta lock in now. Drake Maye 100% gotta lock in now. Because if Gonzo's out, I don't think we finna get no stops no more. Based off what I seen all year. They go on that rest of that drive. Drake London kills them more on that drive. Goes on and gets another touchdown, but they missed the extra point. Crazy part is, the Patriots get the ball back. They punt again. Now, the play calling in this second half was very, very bad. Very, very bad from the Patriots. I don't even know what to really call it. It was just, the awareness to the situation was very bad for what we was doing. For what the Falcons was doing, it was just bad. It was just bad. Didn't really like anything I was seeing out of the Falcons in that second half. Or not the Falcons, out of the Patriots. But the Falcons also defensively were very, very good. This was probably the worst half of football I've seen Drake Maye play since that Raiders second half, to be real. Now, they get another stop. The Falcons go back out there. They end up having a punt. Or no, the Falcons, this is the crucial drive where the Falcons have a chance. 3rd down, Drake London makes another big play where he's wide open. Penix creates extra time for him, And then this is where the set of downs comes, where Penix starts really being Penix. And they really did good clock management here, to be honest, because for them to not be able to, for them to not get it to the 2-minute, because by the time I think Drake London called it, was like 2 minutes and like 30 seconds. For them to not have it go to the 2-minute until the punt, to be able to keep your 2 timeouts, was actually pretty good clock management. But yeah, Penix has that intentional ground that I was already talking about earlier, and the rest is history. I would say Drake Maye, he had a big throw. I mean, I didn't even talk about any of the big plays Drake Maye did when it comes to throwing the ball. It's Drake Maye at the end of the day. He was fantastic throwing the ball. It's just those 5 key mistakes was the difference in the game. This team goes as far as Drake Maye takes them offensively. This team defensively goes as far as Gonzo takes them defensively. It's kind of pretty much what that is. I think the defense did a pretty good job on Bijan, though. Bijan, by the way, Drake was great. Gonzo was great. Gonzo was probably the second best player on the field. Drake London actually probably was the second best player on the field. But Bijan, his stats don't show it. Bro, he bailed out Penix so many times with crazy catches. I can't lie, man. And Gonzo also should have had a pick, but he dropped. But yeah, Gonzo was actually stupid in this game, by the way. I know people gonna see that Drake London stat line and say that's why you're all on Gonzo. It was not. Hey, he was struggling when it came to Gonzo guarding him. But hey, it didn't matter. End of the day, this is a game that the Patriots, I seen them lose so many times last year, and they was like coaching malpractice. Today, they got the job done. They got the job done. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say Patriots. Honestly, after this week, I probably got to put y'all top 10 because now y'all starting to win games. Because you got to think about it. When they played the Bills, that was the #1 pass defense. They was able to move the ball consistently on that defense. When you think about when they played the Browns, that was the #1 pass defense at the time. They was able to move the ball consistently against that defense. And then again here, the Falcons were the #1 pass defense. Now, second half, you kind of seen that. But first half, they were doing whatever they wanted. This was another great game from the Patriots on both sides of the ball. I do think the offense got a little carried by the defense because second half, they weren't really doing anything. They weren't. Second half, they weren't really doing anything. But the defense got the job done in the second half. First half, offense and defense got the job done. Second half, the defense kind of bailed the offense out. So that's a good win. Yeah, I think that actually last week I said they weren't a top 10 team. I think that they kind of starting to prove it. This next week, I think they play the Buccaneers. They got a couple stretch of games. I see a lot of people talking about their schedule. They pretty much got a lot of the easy part of the schedule out the way now. This Falcons start is going where you're going to start seeing the schedule get a little bit tougher. But yeah, that's why we're ranked. All right, so we just got done with the 3 o'clock games, and man, we had some movies. Now, let's go ahead and get into it. Raiders, Jaguars. This was actually arguably the game of the day. Brock Bowers is back. Had a phenomenal game. I had some hey, I'm one of the people that, if I'm wrong, I really wasn't wrong about Geno so far this year. I was right. I'll give more context to it, though. I don't think Geno's played good at all. I think he's been one of the worst quarterbacks in the league so far outside of the first game. But now with the content that we have, he's had a healthy Brock Bowers for 1.5 games. Half of those games was against the Patriots. And then he had a couple games with Brock Bowers where he wasn't healthy. He got hurt at the end of that Patriots game, and he wasn't right the rest of the couple games that he played. Then they started to be like, yeah, you're not right. Let's just sit you out, get you back after the bye. He comes back this week. Geno Smith looks good. He's not taking as many sacks. He's not throwing as many interceptions. Even 2 of the plays that Brock Bowers caught were terrible throws, to be real. But that's what you do when you have a top wide receiver. Like, they're going to make plays for you. It's just what it is. So, Geno played good. I don't think it's a coincidence that he looked good and that he may have looked bad without Brock Bowers. When you don't have your #1 guy, it's going to be tougher. And this team is kind of built around Genty and Brock kind of in that intermediate or underneath. And they had those speedy guys like Trey Tucker and Thornton on the outside going deep. And even sometimes they get some yards at the catch type plays. But honestly, the Raiders look pretty solid today. I don't really, that 2-point conversion play call, I'm not too mad at in terms of what they had because, to be real, he was open. Just a great play by the defender. And honestly, it was a lot of good plays defensively in this game. I thought it was actually pretty solidly officiated. It was a really good game. If you're a Raiders fan, it probably does hurt, but you got to think about it. You're Raiders 2-6. A loss isn't the worst thing. You win that game, if anything, that may hurt you more at the end of the year because this is not a team that's going to be a playoff team. Let's just be for real. So a loss may go longer for you. You really kind of, if you're losing, I'd rather be competitive losing because that means we're closer. That means we're closer to what we really should be. And if you get a good pick, you can use that to help the team. So, interesting situation with them probably having a higher pick this year. I think that's not a bad loss, to be real. I honestly thought this was a really good game. I would say the Raiders, though. Me, personally, I'll probably say the Raiders in this 21-29. Last week, I probably would have had the Bengals behind them, but they were really good today, too. Honestly, I think the Raiders had a more competitive game against a better team, so I'll put the Raiders above them. But they've had their little rocky games, honestly. I'll probably put them back there. Giants are a tough one, too. The Giants are a very tough one, too. Giants' last 2 weeks haven't been that competitive, though, but they're a tough one. I say Jaguars. This is a team all year. They kind of been going the other way the last couple weeks with the scoring. They kind of got it going at the end of the year. I don't know, man. I don't know, man. When it comes to the Jags, very, very interesting team offensively. Defensively has been better all season than it is offensively. They pretty much bailed this offense out all game, where the offense really should have did a lot more in this game. They just couldn't stop Brock Bowers. Even a majority of the game, they did a great job against Genty. They just couldn't stop Brock Bowers at the end of the day, and that's what he was picked to do. So you got to give the Jaguar defense they respect. I think they made a lot of big-time plays. Offensively, they got the job done in the end. I don't think this was a great performance out of them. I think the Steelers and the Bears had better performances this week. I don't think that they're a better team so far this season if we talk about the full season. Honestly, I would even say they've been better than the 49ers. The Falcons is a tough one to rank. I probably would have threw them back here last week, but I'm going to throw them there for now. I'm going to put the Jaguars right there. I think the Jaguars, for the most part, they got some big wins this year. A pretty slept-on team in my opinion. But, yeah. Let's keep it going. Next, we got the Saints versus the Rams. This was a blowout. Nothing much to say here. I think with Rattler being benched for the rest of the year, this is not going to be that good of a team. I think Rattler had a couple bad weeks, but he was actually pretty solid for the most part in a lot of these games. They was very competitive. They kind of getting less competitive as the year goes on. So I think that's a very smart, safe spot. I think the Titans had a good week this week, but to be getting 14 free points and only scoring 6 points after that is pretty special. Next, we got the Rams. Rams looked very, very good this week. I would say the Rams are in that top 6. Are they top 5? We shall see. We shall see, but I think top 6 for sure. I think they got the inconsistencies on both sides of the ball, but I'm going to be real. The way Corum looked at one point in this game was a really big deal for Kyron. I think after the way he saw Blake Corum was out there going out there getting them snaps running hard, I think that pretty much lit a fire under the Kyron where he started having some pretty crazy runs. Now, you could say that may have just been bad tackling from a bad team, which is probably what it was, but those boys was definitely running really hard. Puka, before he got injured, he looked really good, but he is injured again, and this is kind of the thing with Puka these past couple years. His play style, it may lead to a lot of injuries. So, yeah, he's injured again. So, we'll see. Hopefully, it's nothing significant because Puka's one of the better players in the league, obviously, especially this year. But, we'll see. Next, we got the Bills and the Chiefs. Now, we're going to rank the Chiefs last because they did end up going to win. The Chiefs, in my opinion, they looked like the best team in football before this game. The Bills did some things to the Chiefs that made them uncomfortable. What the Chiefs want to do, and this is kind of the thing that I'm saying when it comes to Mahomes, he has not looked the same. I know people looking at the numbers. Mahomes he's the best we've seen him play in years. Not debatable. But he's still not that peak, that prime Mahomes that we were seeing in 2018, 2019, when his defense was bad. And he was really the offense was really the whole reason why they was even good. He's still not to that level. Because in this game, he was very inconsistent. And the thing with the Chiefs, they want to have down-to-down good situations. They don't want to be in them second and longs. They don't want to be in them third and longs. This is a team that wants those second and shorts, those third and shorts. They want to be ahead of the chains on every down. The Bills did a great job in this game not letting them be ahead of the chains for majority of pretty much the whole game. They pretty much didn't let Mahomes do really a lot of the stuff he wants to do. This is a team that really wasn't that good running the ball. They actually was probably more consistent running the ball today than throwing the ball, even though like they got majority of their yards throwing the ball, but that's pretty much every team. So, honestly, I think this was an interesting performance for the Chiefs. Just like the Lions lost, I'm not going to go too far on the Chiefs, to be real. They probably still end up being that number 1 team, low-key, with this loss. Honestly, I'd probably still say they're the best team. Because the Lions lost, that's like the only other team I can really think of that I can debatably say is better right now. But yeah, and then you got the Bills. I had them in the top 10, around the 8 to 7 range. Very, very, very big win for the Bills in my opinion. This is a team that's 6-2. They didn't really have no big win this whole season. When they had pretty much a big game for the most part, they lost. When they played the Falcons, I don't think that was that big of a game, but that was a loss that wasn't a bad loss. It wasn't a big game, but that was an interesting game. That was one of the better teams that they played so far, and they lost. When they played the Patriots, that was a big game, because now, look at their records. That game looking much bigger now. Now that second time they play is going to be huge, because now that's going to be for the division. And whoever win that division could go on with that Chiefs loss and the Colts loss today. whoever won that division could go on to have the #1 seed in the entire conference. So that, I'm gonna be real, that's looking good. But I will say the Bills, they did look good today. They did look good today on both sides. And defense, 24 had a great game. He was the best player on the field at a lot of points of the game when Mahomes was on the game. He was making play after play after play after play, and it was almost all the time at the perfect, crucial time that you need those plays to be made. So you got to give him a lot of credit. I think that's Cole Bishop. If that's not, my bad. But I think that's Cole Bishop. I was really high on him when he got drafted. Haven't seen a lot of him in terms of these past 2 years. But today he had a huge game. Huge game. And he was so big for them in so many critical moments. So I do think Bills, they got to go back up in that top 5. Because I'm going to be real. If that defense is playing like they did today. If they're able to run. Bro, I'm going to tell you this. The James Cook stuff is looking real. He's always been good. He's just been inconsistent. If James Cook is real, that stat about him not getting 100 yards makes a lot of sense this year, because to be real, I said coming to the year, I think the defense is improved, but the defense is still kind of more so based off the scheme. The scheme and play calling kind of gets the most out of it. But offensively, it kind of just goes as far as Josh Allen. I don't think Josh Allen has been that good this year. Josh Allen looked like Josh Allen today. Josh Allen looked like the best player in the world, Josh Allen that we know from last year, whatever you want to talk about. Josh Allen was fantastic in this game. He made no mistakes for the most part. He may have took like a bad sack, but for the most part, Josh Allen was damn near perfect in this game. Genuinely, he was amazing in this game. And they lost. They only won by 7 with Josh Allen pretty much having a perfect game. Cook going out there getting over 100 yards, and the defense was this good. And the Chiefs still had multiple chances to tie this game. That says a lot about the margin for error that this Bills team is playing with, in my opinion. But it also says how good and how hard it is to beat this Chiefs team with all the pieces they got right now. So I still probably say when it comes playoff time, because we know the Bills can beat the Chiefs in the regular season. This is a regular thing now. The Chiefs at this point have only beat Josh Allen once in these past couple years, I believe. I think Josh Allen like 4-1 or 5-1 now in the regular season, but he has never beat them in the playoffs. So, you know, it's a very interesting situation going on over there. But that's my rankings for now. We're going to come back after the Sunday night football game. We're going to come back after the Monday night football game. And then we're going to also rank these teams on the bye. All right, so we back after the Seahawks, Commanders. All right, so we back after the Seahawks, Commanders destruction. Yeah, that was over very, very fast. Now, Commanders, I was going to do this video early. I'm not going to lie. I don't even know how to really say this in a good way. I kind of feel bad I didn't do this early because JD ends up getting hurt in this game. I was going to say, bro, I can just see the takes people going to say about JD after this season, because he's going to play this whole season without having his wide receiver course healthy in any way, shape, or form. Ever. I don't think there was really a game where they were healthy the whole season. So, he pretty much had that, but now he has now got hurt again. It is now in different combos for him. That injury was very, very gruesome. I'm guessing he's out for the season. I know it's not his throwing arm, but brother, I don't know how you play in the NFL with a whole fractured arm trying to be repaired, bro. Like, he's gonna get tackled. He gets tackled. What are we talking about? Like, nah, bro. I don't really know how that works, to be honest. So, I'ma say Commanders, I honestly thought y'all haven't been that bad so far this year. I think y'all was probably around under the Bears. I think I can be safe. I can honestly say that y'all are not gonna be better than the Panthers now, personally. I think y'all right there, neck and neck with the Panthers, the Bengals, the Dolphins. I think y'all neck and neck. And I said this before the season. I wouldn't be too surprised if the Commanders end up being worse than the Giants. It's not that far. It's not that far. And the Giants have one of the craziest schedules I think I've ever seen. And it's not going to be that far. Next, we got the Seahawks. I'm going to do the bye teams, too, before the Monday night game, because I'm going to just do the Monday night teams tomorrow when it's the Monday night game. Seahawks. I was thinking about this when I looked at these teams. I don't know what teams I could even put in that top 5 based on how people played this week. Because you got the Lions that lost, the Chiefs that lost, Rams may just have to go up in there. But the Seahawks, this is another game where they've looked fantastic. And now you look at these losses. They lost week 1. New quarterback, new OC. That understandable. Week 1 is the shaky game for the offense. Defense still played very good that game. Then you got the game against the Buccaneers. That's pretty much the only real shaky blemish the defense got all year. Baker was ridiculous in that game. They couldn't get a stop on him that whole game. That was one of the craziest quarterback performances from both teams. Sam Darnold was ridiculous in that game as well. Sam Darnold, I'm seeing these MVP cases. I think Drake Maye had his worst game since week 1. I am a Patriots fan, but I got to be unbiased. I think Matthew Stafford has been a little underrated in this. I think Dan Jones is I don't think he's in these convos. JT didn't have a great game today. Jason had another great game. Sam Darnold, wherever you got Baker Mayfield in those, I might got Sam Darnold right there, maybe even above him. I think they've been neck and neck all year. Even when I did my quarterback tier list, they've been neck and neck all year, in my opinion, in terms of how good they've played. And I think it just goes to show this Seahawks team has just got the job done. They have got the job done. So, with that being said, I do think the Seattle Seahawks, I think at this point, offensively, the only issue they got is running the ball. I honestly trust this team more than the Bills. The issue comes down to Josh Allen, but I trust that defense thoroughly more than I trust the Bills right now. Thoroughly. I think the Seahawks might genuinely right now be in that discussion with the Lions, with the Chiefs. Honestly, the Rams may got to go up. The Rams might got to go up. They are getting unhealthy at the wrong time of the season. Oh, no, Rams not going up. They're not going up because it's another team that got to go up there. The Rams, they are kind of getting unhealthy at the right time, where for some of these other teams, it's probably going the other way. Because Puka Nacua getting hurt again. Hopefully, he doesn't actually have a broken clavicle or whatever it's called. Hopefully, that's not the actual injury. It looked kind of like it could be pretty bad as soon as I seen it. But hopefully, Puka's going to be good. I've had my things to say about Puka this year, but we need guys like Puka playing. Yeah, I'm going to say the Seahawks in that top 5. I think defense to offense, they've been one of the best. They've had one of the best in terms of because I'm a big consistency guy. Their passing game has been so consistent. If you look at the games that it wasn't that crazy consistent, it was against some of the best teams defensively in the league. So you got to give them their credit. I'm going to say they're in that top 5. Then we have the Browns. I think the Browns defensively are good enough to not be in that 30 to 32, but they might still be there. I'm going to put them in there for now. I think the Saints have been a little bit more competitive than them so far this year. But that's a tough one. I'm going to actually put the Browns up there. And then we have the Eagles. The Eagles, I think that they've had the inconsistencies so far this year, but I do think the Eagles are in that upper echelon. You could make a case that the Seahawks has been that best team in the NFC. You could make that case. I think from the Lions to the Packers, they all around that same tier. I honestly do think Lions all the way to Packers, you could have that in any order, personally. After the Lions, I think Lions has been the best team in the NFC. After the Lions, I think you really could go Eagles to Packers in any order you want to do. The Buccaneers, I didn't really talk about the Eagles that much. I think the Eagles did lose some edge. I think they lost some pass rush. I think they lost some stuff in terms of the defensive back unit. They just picked up Jair Alexander. He was pretty bad with the Ravens, so we'll see what that looks like. But all in all, if I'm being real, this Eagles team, they're getting the job done week in, week out. So you got to give them their credit. But more on to the other teams. The Buccaneers. This is a very interesting team because it's kind of similar to... It is kind of similar to the Rams, where they kind of are getting injured and going the other way. Like Mike Evans came back, he kind of got injured instantly. When is Chris Godwin going to be back? When is Bucky Irvin going to be back? They've had injuries on defense pretty much all season. Offensive line has had injuries. Baker has been the only constant, but even his level of play is starting to drop. This is a really weird team to rank, personally. I would put the Buccaneers right now, if I had to rank them, right there. I think they just going the other way. They're doing the opposite. I think they may have been a team that just peaked a little early. I think if they can get healthy, it's a different conversation. They're going to be better than some of those teams in that top 10. But right now, I got them behind the Ravens because I think the Ravens are going the opposite way of where the Buccaneers are going. Then you have the Jets, who are arguably the worst team in football. It's these three teams. It's one of those three. I think Titans, you got to go with Titans right now because they just find ways to lose at a certain point. Jets do something similar, but they more recently won. So I think that's just going to be the difference for me. I don't think any of these teams in the bottom are that good. With Suge actually starting, it looked a little worse. So we'll see what that's looking like. Maybe they start trending even lower. But for now, that's what we're looking like until we get to these next two games. So yeah. All right, so let's finish this video out. Put these in order based on who I thought was going to win. They lost. We got to rank it. Got to finish ranking it. Cardinals and the Cowboys. Ranking the teams. When I really did this, I had the Cardinals pretty high because if you watch these games, they're competitive in every game. It's just they don't get the job done. They don't get the job done. So when it comes to the Cardinals, I do think they're a lot better than what their records show. They just got to finish these games. And I do think it's kind of a similar situation. Mac Jones, so far this year, y'all going to see my quarterback tier list. I'm going to mention it. He outplayed Trevor Lawrence the end of the year last year. He did. He did with the Jaguars last year. He played better than Trevor Lawrence played last year with the Jaguars. He did. This year, Matt Jones has stepped up for Brock Purdy. He's outplayed him. Jacoby Brissett has stepped up now for Kyler Murray. You're seeing, I'm going to be real. Okay, let's put it in context. For this game though, they played the Cowboys. But they've played some other teams where they actually have a pretty solid game offensively that you're just not used to seeing out of the Cardinals. I think either last week or a week, they played the Packers. That's a good defense. Do they have a good pass defense? That's debatable. I think they have a good pass rush. Do they have good pass coverage with those defensive backs? I like the safety, but the defensive backs outside of him is not that great. But I do think they had a good week against them. Then you think about the week before that, they played the Colts, I believe. Either they played the Colts or the Packers recently. It was the Packers, then it was the Colts. I think they've been more productive passing the ball with Jacoby Brissett. Now, this game, it did slow down. First half, it was pretty. They really couldn't stop them until that one time when they had the penalty, then they had the sack. It was either the sack or it was the sack, and then they had a penalty, but they just declined the penalty, and then they block it and get a touchdown. Cowboys, they couldn't move the ball on the Cardinals. The Cardinals been a good defense all year so far. So I'm going to say the Cowboys, I still think that this is a team that is competitive. I would put here, though. Their defense is just so bad that they could lose to anybody. Their offense is so good that they could beat anybody. But if Dak's playing this level that he played today, this is a pedestrian team. This is the Dak that we know. The Dak that we've seen so far this year, he's an MVP candidate. But if he plays like he's played the last 2 weeks, that is a pedestrian team. And that's the issue with the Cowboys because he's the highest paid player in the league. He cannot play to this level. And they succeed. That's just his margin for error. He has no margin for error. He has none. If he's not scoring 30, he's not going to be competitive in any game. This game was not competitive. They were losing the entire game. So, Cowboys, not being harsh, it's just the facts. Y'all have the worst defense in the league. Y'all might have the best offense in the league. I don't think y'all have a debate for the best offense in the league anymore after these last 2 weeks, though. Because when y'all start playing real defenses outside of the Packers, which has their own deficiencies in terms of coverage, it was an issue. And then today, he had no time to throw at all day. So, I don't really know what's going on over there with the Cowboys, but I'm going to say 21-29. And then for the Cardinals, I'm going to put the Cardinals kind of high. I'm going to put them above the Bears. Honestly, I think the Cardinals have been more competitive. They've been competitive every single game. Every single game. If any of them games go differently, I think we look at them a lot differently. I think we could be talking about as high as around here if they win those games. They just didn't win those games. So, I got to go here. Right behind the Steelers, who just seem to find a way to win those exact games. I think that's the difference between these two teams. I think the Bears and the Cardinals are very similar in terms of talent, in terms of play calling. I think the Bears have more offensive talent, but I think the Cardinals defensively is on par with the Bears. I just think that they've been more consistently competitive no matter the competition, no matter the situation, no matter the injury every single week when it comes to the Cardinals. Bears on the other side, they have great play calling, play design, scheming, the execution, quarterback, defense, it doesn't really matter. The whole team, players-wise, execution is just interesting. Now, I do like the 7th round rookie running back. He's been very good in his opportunities. He took advantage of it this week. It was not a good defense, but when I've seen him outside of this game, he's been pretty solid. So we'll see. We'll see. Swift had been getting it going the past couple weeks as well. So I don't know. But yeah, we'll see. But yeah, that's the tier list so far. Now we got to say who I think is the best team in football right now. I think it's a crime shame to say that the Chiefs or the Lions are the best team in football right now. But those are the two teams I would say is fighting for it. But the more I think about it, I think it is actually a fair assessment to say a different team is the best team in football right now. I think if you look at the games that they've lost, you got a week 1 loss to a divisional rival. You can really lose to anybody when it comes to divisional rivals. The Eagles lost to the Giants. When you think about the other loss, they had a masterclass performance just put up against them. He just had a great day, and you just got to tip your hat at that point. But defensively, they've had no let-ups outside of that game. I think defensively they have a shot to be in one of the best defenses in the league. And offensively, they have one of the best quarterbacks in the league so far this season. Yes, it may be crazy to say this when you see the team I'm putting there. And in wide receiver-wise, I don't really think it's much of a debate who's performed the best, who's had the best season wide receiver-wise. I think he has it. So it's really the only issue with this team is the run game. That is the only flaw. But there's all these other teams in the top 5 have flaws. The Bills have their own flaws. The Lions have their own flaws. The Chiefs have their own flaws. The only other team that it really comes down to the flaws with Eagles is the consistency. That's the only issue with the Eagles, the consistency. Because we know how good the Eagles can be. Can they do this consistently? I'm going to have to say the Seahawks right now got it, man. I think coaching, playing, they've been very balanced all around. The only issue I've had with them is really the run game. The run game has consistently kind of let them down. And they actually have talent in the run game. They got 2 really good running backs, in my opinion. But I think both of these guys are guys that has to get more and more touches to get going. Like, that's the thing when it comes to running back. There's guys like Derrick Henry that the more touches he gets, the better he gets. It's just what it is. It's guys like that. That's how Derrick Henry's been his whole career, his whole life. It's just what it is. So, I think they just got 2 guys that's like that. And the guy that I do feel is probably more so suited to the way they use him is probably Charbonnet. He's probably a guy that can catch the ball at the backfield, and he can do more with limited touches. But I think Kenneth Walker is probably the more talented guy. He just doesn't like going north and south for some reason. He likes going east and west a lot. He just likes doing that. But all that being said, I do think the Seahawks, for the most part, regardless of the injuries, defensively, offensively, they've been pretty consistent all throughout this season. It's just, like I said, they lost to a very close game with a divisional rival. That was the first game for the OC and the quarterback, so you can take that for what you will. And the Buccaneers game where it came down to the end where ball gets tipped at the line of scrimmage and it turns into a pick. And that was the literal difference in the entire game. So, yeah. I think that the Seahawks deserve it. And that's who I got as the best team in football right now. But yeah, that's my tier list for the teams. Ravens is going up right now because they are getting healthy at the right time. And I think Lamar being back is a big addition for them. 49ers, they're starting to get healthy. But when I start seeing guys like Ayuk and Purdy back, then I can start being a little bit more comfortable having them higher than where they are right now. But I think that their record is really more so based off the coaching, more so than the talent they've had, because the talent they've had, almost all their good players are injured. And even now, they're getting even more injuries on defense. So that is another situation to be kind of looking at. But yeah, overall, this is my tier list of the teams. Looking around, trying to see if I trolled anybody. I think this is pretty accurate top to bottom. Steelers may be the only ones I can see having a big gripe. Maybe Broncos fans, maybe Bears fans. But for the most part, I'm pretty comfortable with this. I'm pretty comfortable with this, honestly. I think the Cowboys are now 3-5-1, by the way. So that's very, very interesting to me. But yeah, that's going to be the video. If y'all do want more, all you got to do is like the video, man. Subscribe if you're new. Further ado, man, it's your boy Fitz. I'm out there, man. Alright, so I was done making this video, but the trade deadline, I didn't even realize when I was making this last night after the game that the trade deadline was today. It's a lot of trades that happened today. I think we can say for sure the Jets going to probably be the worst team in football this year. They kind of pretty much just said, we're going to try to get that #1 pick. It's a very interesting situation. If the Jets go on, get the #1 pick, trade down, they already have 3 first-round picks in a very, very crazy, hyped-up, stacked 2027 draft class. they can trade down and get even more first. That is looking very interesting. Now, when it comes to some of these other teams, the Saints made a trade with Shaheed. I don't know if that makes that big a difference on their outlook on their outlook of the rest of the season. They have been competitive in a lot of games, but with Suge in there, I think for the rest of the season they're gonna kind of be more so down the list. When it comes to some of these teams in 21 and 29, the only team that really made a big move, and it's kind of interesting that the Dolphins didn't really make but one move. They made a trade for Jalen Phillips. They pretty much fired their GM because they weren't trading anybody and only traded one of the guys that they was talking about. What the Jets did, you kind of expected the Dolphins to be doing, and they kind of didn't really do that. They kind of fell through. So that's a very, very interesting one. That's a very interesting one. But when it comes to the Cowboys, they ended up trading for Quentin Williams. Quentin Williams, I don't really understand what's going on with him the last 2 years. Before last year, he was looked at as one of the best D tackles in the league. Kind of fell off a little bit last year. Still was good. This year, don't really know how to really gauge it. So, but the thing is with the Cowboys, I don't think their interior run defense has been that bad this year. I think it's been better than it has been the past couple years. It's just their defense as a whole is bad. And they also got the linebacker from the Bengals, but apparently he was finna get benched on the Bengals. And that's already a defense that's probably on the level of the Cowboys. So I don't know how much the Cowboys really improved with this trade deadline. Like, they needed guys, so I get it. But I don't know if they really fully improved because their defense is still not going to be good. So I don't know. Then we have the other teams that made some moves. You got Jacoby Myers going to the Jaguars. I may be able to move. Well, if that means that guys like Genty and Brock Bowers are getting more touches, I don't know if I can lower the Raiders, to be real. I may can even raise them above a team like the Giants because that's a team that kind of like, they need to play through. They kind of need to build a more of like a identity like what the Falcons have, where they kind of just playing through their stars offensively and try to play some good defense on the back end. And I think that's kind of what they want to do. So I'm going to raise them over the Giants because the Giants, I do feel like maybe going the other way. Because they didn't really make no moves either, where they kind of did need some as they keep getting all these injuries. But when it comes to a team, who else? I think Cardinals, I think they already announced that they're staying with Jacoby Brissett. Yeah, they're staying with Jacoby Brissett, and I think that would probably be better for them because he just outplayed them so far this year. I don't think it's that really crazy to say. I don't think that's that crazy to say. Who else has made some pretty big moves today? Ravens didn't really do much. They got Jermont Jones from the Titans. Honestly thought they would say Simmons, but they didn't, which I get. And apparently the Titans refused to make moves with the Patriots because of how the variable thing ended. But the person that we wanted to get supposedly was Jeffrey Simmons, but that's our strongest suit of our team right now in terms of depth. Like, obviously Drake Maye, obviously Gonzo, but the depth outside of Gonzo isn't that great. Like, if Gonzo goes down, we just have Carlton Davis and Marcus Jones that we can really depend on. We pretty much play with 3 corners on the field at all times, so that means somebody else got to step up. It was really how Alex Austin coming into the year, but he hadn't been that good when he did play. So I don't know. I would say defensive tackle was definitely our strong suit when you think of Tonga, the Ricky, Milton Williams, Barmore. I would say that's definitely our deepest position, and we pretty much had Barmore suspended for like a first quarter, and that was one of the best first quarters defensively I've seen from us all season. So I don't know. That's a very interesting one. I would say, personally, I can't really raise or lower the Patriots. I didn't really see too much out the Broncos. I'm trying to think if anybody else I'm just forgetting. Jacoby Myers to the Jaguars. With the injuries that they got going on with Trav, that could move the needle. That is a sure-handed guy that can get open. I hear a lot of Jags fans talking about the drops. I don't think the drops are the main issue with the Jaguars, but I do think it is an issue. I think Trevor has just not played to the level that he's supposed to be playing again, even though they got another offensive mind to try to make this work. But they're winning games. So maybe, I don't know. I don't think he's going to move the needle, though. That's what I'll say. The Colts. Colts pretty much went all in. They went all in for the most part with Daniel Jones. And until, I guess, the full part of this video, I was saying that they are the AFC Lions. I stamped that even stronger. Now, how much do they move up? How much do they move up? I think they move up above the Packers. The Rams have a very interesting injury situation going on over there. I don't know how long Puka's going to be out. I don't know what that's going to look like. And by the way, I was talking to some 49ers fans. Rams got a very interesting next 2 weeks. They play the 49ers this week. The week after that, they play the Seahawks. So this could be a situation that could flip very fast. But if the Colts are going to have an even bigger margin for error offensively, they've been the most consistent offense in the league outside of one game this year. That is going to be a very interesting team. Now, come the playoffs, is that going to be lasting offensively? I think the defense being better is going to make it that much better of a situation overall. This is a very well-built team, in my opinion. It's very interesting. It's very, very interesting looking at this Colts team. I would probably have to say right now they do have a more well-rounded team than the Rams. I think the Rams have a better, in terms of offensively talented roster, but the Colts have outproduced them. And honestly, I would have to put the Colts all the way up here above the Eagles. Now, I think that's where I can't go any further than that. The Eagles have been inconsistent. The Colts getting even more depth defensively with Sauce Gardner. I don't think Sauce Gardner was worth 2 firsts, by the way. I don't. But I do understand the idea from a trade standpoint of when it comes to the Colts. They're trying to go all in this season. I get it. But I don't know if he was really worth 2 firsts. He ain't really been that Sauce Gardner for like 2 to 3 years almost now. He came into the league his first 2 years. He was arguably the best corner in the league. But since then, he has not been nowhere near that level. And then he's kind of really got worse every year since then. So I do think Sauce Gardner is good. Is he 2 firsts good? That really just makes me think, like, if Sauce Gardner's going for 2 firsts, I'm not even going to use my bias. I'm going to say PS2. How much is he worth? He just literally won the Defensive Player of the Year. He's regarded as the best corner in the league, around the league. How much is he worth? I thought wide receivers had a little bit more value than corners, but it makes sense for corners to be more valuable because that is probably the toughest position to play in the league. So I can get it. You get a premier corner, I can get it. The more I think about it, I can understand it, especially if you're the Colts. So this could really be a move that changes the entire outlook of the season for everything. Because they just got one loss that pretty much kind of moved them out the #1 sole position of AFC. They got some stuff they got to fight for now. But I'm interested to see how this outlook is going to look for the rest of the season. Y'all do want more, though. Make sure to like the video. Make sure to subscribe. I don't know what I was going to say. Without further ado, man, it's your boy Fitz. I'm out of here.
Tell them to bring me my money. Yeah!